My girlfriend left me and moved in with someone else. A year later, she suddenly showed up at our class reunion, holding a baby in her arms. The moment she saw me, her eyes instantly filled with tears. "Enough of this Cold War," she said. "Maguire's baby has already been born. Let's go ahead and fulfill our marriage vow." Maguire raised his glass and spoke. "I'm sorry, Thomas. I'm truly sorry. It was my fault. Emily got pregnant because of me. I had to take care of her, which is why your wedding got postponed. Now, I'm giving her back to you. The child can live with both of you." Everyone around burst into mocking laughter. "Way to go, Thomas. You've got wife and kid now. Just say yes already." I simply smiled, waved my hand in refusal, then held up the diamond ring on my finger. "No need. I already have a wife and child. Besides, I don't like raising another man's child." The moment those words left my mouth, the once lively atmosphere froze over. Everyone could see it. The two people who thought they'd won so easily were suddenly panic-stricken. Emily and I should have smoothly tied the knot and spent our lives together. We were just 1 month away from our wedding when everything exploded in a fierce argument. Not over money, not over betrayal, but because she wanted to have a child with someone else. When I first heard that absurd truth, I was shocked and furious. Now, all I felt was helplessness. "We're getting married in a month," I said, "and yet you want to have a baby with another man? Don't you think that's insane?" Tears welled up in my eyes. I'd held them back for so long, but in the end, I couldn't stop them. Emily flinched. This was the first time she'd ever seen me this angry. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, her phone chimed with a notification, cutting her off. She glanced down at her screen, then looked up again, her expression now cold and distant. "I have to leave early. Calm down, okay?" I watched her walk away. Only then did I realize, throughout all the years we were together, I had always just been chasing her back. Later, I received a message from Maguire, along with a screenshot of their chat. "Maguire. Emily, my dad's health is failing. We don't need to wait for Thomas's approval anymore. Can we go ahead with IVF? Please?" Emily replied. "I'll be right there." I went numb. Finally, I understood why she had left in such a hurry. Ellipsis. Thinking back, I took a deep breath, picked up my phone, and posted a status update. After blacking out Emily's name, I hit send. "Getting married in a month. Thinking of swapping brides. Who's in?" Everyone assumed I was joking. They flooded the post with playful teasing, no one taking it seriously. Just as I started feeling disheartened, my phone rang. It was Olivia. Seeing the 3 words, "Long time no see," I froze. Olivia and I had grown up together. In school, she was the campus beauty queen, I was the heartthrob. And we were notorious rivals, bickering non-stop from kindergarten through high school. Only after we went off to different universities in London did our feud finally cool down. I answered the call, bracing myself for mockery. But instead, her voice came through calm and steady. "Thomas, if you're looking to swap brides, how about me?" Silence fell. I wasn't sure what she meant. But deep down, I knew one thing. She really was the perfect replacement. After a long pause, I finally spoke. "What's your condition?" "None. Just stop calling me annoying and start calling me wife. That's all." Something inside me stirred, unusual, unexpected. But I confirmed it once more. That was all there was to it. Other couples had their marriages. So would I. Her request caught me completely off guard. I'd assumed she agreed only because her family had been pressuring her to settle down. For years, I was the one chasing Emily. Since she never seemed serious about marriage, her family never pushed hard. I'd already climbed to the peak and plucked that flower. I hadn't dared ask for more. But lately, my grandfather's health had been declining, and he kept waiting for my wedding. With no other choice, I took the initiative and proposed to Emily. Now, with our wedding just around the corner, she drops this absurd demand on me. I tightened my grip on the phone and replied, "I've never considered a fake marriage. If we marry, it'll be real, wholehearted, faithful for life. Then I'll come see you soon," she said. "We can discuss when to register and hold the wedding." I stayed silent for a moment before answering. Give me half a month. I'll sort out what's left. I didn't specify what needed sorting, but we both knew. A real marriage meant cutting ties with the past, completely. That was that. Olivia didn't say anything else, just hung up. The first thing I did was update my phone notes. When I saw her contact name changed to wife, the corner of my mouth curled into a bitter smile. Emily, you hid from me to have another man's child? Fine, I'll hide too, and replace you with a new bride. Over the next few days, Emily didn't come home. I didn't ask why. Instead, I quietly reached out to close friends and began collecting back the wedding invitations I'd already sent. Originally, Emily said she hated fuss, so we kept things simple. Just a small gathering of close friends and family. Suddenly canceling and recalling invitations surprised everyone. Why, weren't you two getting along perfectly? Hearing that, I could only feel a pang of bitterness. Perfectly? Our relationship seemed stable only because I was always chasing her, while she remained distant and indifferent. Yes, it was stable, but the love was mine alone. She was never part of it. She stood like a distant god, coldly watching me fall deeper and deeper, unable to let go. But now, I don't want to love anymore. Finally, I stopped hiding. I told the truth straight. The bride has changed. As soon as I said it, there weren't gasps, just loud teasing from friends. Clearly, no one believed me. And honestly, who could blame them? Back when I was obsessed with Emily, ignoring her coldness, if someone else suddenly said they were calling off their wedding, I wouldn't have believed it either. But it didn't matter. I'd prove it, with facts. This time, I really was done. I collected every last invitation. Not long after, when I returned home, Emily finally came back. Once pristine and composed, she now looked disheveled, her white shirt wrinkled, dark circles under bloodshot eyes, face pale and worn. One glance, and I knew she wasn't doing well. The first thing she said matched exactly what I'd just done. Thomas, please recall all the wedding invitations. Professor James passed away. At least I need to mourn for 6 months. I can't get married now. She expected me to blow up, to argue. After all, it was me who'd been pushing for marriage. She knew my grandfather had been waiting for this day. She thought I'd be furious. She'd even prepared excuses in advance. But I simply replied, calm and steady. I understand. Take care of yourself. Emily flinched slightly, suddenly realizing that since that night, I'd become someone else. My attitude toward her felt strange, off, but right then. She didn't have the energy to dwell on it. Frowning tiredly, she spoke again. Thomas, today is the memorial service. Before he passed, Professor James mentioned you. I'd like you to come pay your respects with me. I never liked Maguire. But Professor James, he was kind, gentle, someone I respected. Besides, I never imagined his son would go so far, seeking surrogacy just to fulfill his father's final wish. As an outsider, I nodded and agreed. Emily washed her face, changed clothes, and led me to Professor James's funeral. As soon as we arrived, a sobbing voice called out, Emily? I turned toward the sound. Maguire, dressed in mourning clothes, collapsed to the ground, dazed and broken. Emily startled. She rushed over, gently cradling him in her arms. Without looking at me, saying only, you go pay your respects first. I'll stay with him. Seeing her tender, careful, anxious expression, anyone on the outside would assume Maguire was her boyfriend. If this had happened before, seeing them so intimate, I probably would have caused a scene right then and there. But now, I merely glanced their way, turned my gaze away, said nothing, and walked straight toward the main hall. She clearly hadn't expected me to be so resolute. Emily looked up, startled. That strange feeling welled up inside her again. But as the man in her arms weakly called her name, her attention snapped back to him. She helped Maguire to the side, comforting him gently. Meanwhile, I bowed respectfully to the elders. Then approached Professor James's wife, her face pale and drawn. Please accept my condolences, I said quietly. She nodded faintly in response, then took my hand. You're Emily's boyfriend? Thank you for coming to see Professor James. I heard you two were about to get married. She's such a kind-hearted girl. She volunteered to take care of McGuire in the professor's place. The next 6 months will be hard on you, I'm sure. I listened in silence, showing no reaction, not mentioning anything about Emily and McGuire, or the absurd plan their son had set in motion. Noticing what must have looked like sorrow in my eyes, Professor James's wife sighed softly. We've watched Emily grow up. Professor James was her advisor from undergrad all the way through her PhD. She's always been someone deeply loyal. That's why we made this decision. Don't blame her, now that the bride had already changed. Of course I wouldn't blame her. I understood her perfectly. Seeing my calm, understanding expression, his wife spoke again, almost unable to hold back. You shouldn't take it too hard. Yes, McGuire follows her around constantly. But I really don't think she feels that way about him. She actually likes you. Hearing that, my body stiffened slightly. Likes me? I'd never noticed. Sensing my disbelief, she continued, eager to convince me. I'm not lying, dear. Your father and I used to worry Emily would never fall in love. She was so focused on her medical research. She never said much. But around us, she'd mention you so often. Casually. Like where she ran into you yesterday. Or what delicious meal you cooked for her. Or some silly thing you did trying to win her over. It sounded like complaints. But we both knew. She just didn't realize she was in love. One by one, Professor James's wife recounted little moments. Emily's unnoticed attentions, her hidden affections. But to me, it all felt bitterly ironic. Maybe once, hearing this would have made me overjoyed. Now, it only left a sour taste in my mouth. If Emily truly loved me, why had I never felt it? Why was it always me chasing? While she never once stopped to wait? If she loved me, how could she agree to have another man's child? The moment she said yes to McGuire, everything became irreversible. Between us, it was already over. Throughout the entire funeral, Emily stayed by McGuire's side. Only when it ended and rain began to fall, as guests slowly dispersed, did she finally drive up beside me. Get in, she said, too cold. Emotionless words. I stepped forward, but the window rolled down slowly, revealing McGuire already seated in the passenger seat. Even his mother was sitting in the back. Before I could say anything, McGuire's voice came out weakly. Emily, I want to visit Dad's grave. Just you, me, and Mom, okay? As soon as he said it, even his own mother frowned. McGuire, don't be like this. But those 6 simple words must have struck some raw nerve. Because McGuire broke down sobbing. Today was his father's funeral. Couldn't he just take a taxi alone? His mother started to scold him gently. But Emily had already decided. Thomas, she called out sharply. I'll come pick you up later. She turned to look at me, her tone brooking no argument. Then started the car and drove off. I was left standing there, alone. From the moment McGuire opened his mouth, I'd already seen how this would end. Now, as I stood there wasn't even a trace of heartbreak on my face. Just quiet resignation. I waited silently for hours. But she never came. As the rain poured harder, I realized she wasn't coming at all. The funeral home was in a remote area. No rides available nearby. I hadn't brought an umbrella. So I did the only thing I could, walk through the storm. The rain grew heavier, blurring my vision. I walked soaked for 2 hours, before finally reaching a spot where I could catch a ride. That night, when I got home, I collapsed with a high fever. Emily still hadn't returned. Delirious and weak. I didn't even have the strength to whisper, no. I forced myself up, found some fever reducers, and swallowed them with water, but they worked too slowly. I fell back into bed, burning up, restless, drifting in and out of consciousness, until I finally passed out. It wasn't until nearly a full day and night later that my fever finally broke. Just then, I heard the front door open. Emily walked in, without even glancing at me. She didn't mention failing to pick me up. She just quietly packed her things. When she finished, she finally deigned to look at me. "Maguire isn't doing well," she said. "For the next few days, I'll be staying with him. You'll be alone at home. Call me if anything comes up." With that, without hesitation, she rushed out the door. I let out a dry laugh. What good would calling her do? Even when I stood before her, pale and ill, she hadn't noticed I was sick. How could I possibly expect her to abandon Maguire and come back to me? In the days that followed, Emily never returned, never called. Yet somehow, I knew exactly where she was every moment. After all, she was always with Maguire, a man who loved sharing his life online. Every day, I heard from his friends what they'd been doing, how she'd cooked porridge for him, peeled shrimp for him, little acts of tenderness meant for someone else. For example, I heard she took him out for walks, watched fireworks with him. I didn't pay much attention to what they were doing. After recovering, I went to the company to submit my resignation. "Thomas, why suddenly quit? Something happened?" My coworkers were all surprised when they heard the news. I just shook my head and explained that after so many years away, it was time for me to go back home and start my own business. This only made them more confused. Eventually, someone couldn't help but ask, "What about Emily, though? Her family's right here in this city. Aren't you basically going long distance if you move back?" I flinched slightly. Right, everyone knew how deeply I loved Emily. I loved her so much I'd given up everything, moved to this unfamiliar city just to be near her. I loved her so completely that everyone around us unconsciously assumed this relationship was one-sided, that I was the one always giving, while she remained comfortably distant, taking my sacrifices for granted. And then, she quietly gave all her patience and tenderness to someone else. I smiled faintly and shook my head. It's not long distance. It's that we won't be seeing each other at all from now on. After handing over my responsibilities, I packed up all my belongings and carried a box of stuff home. The moment I walked in, I saw Emily and Maguire sitting in the living room. "What's this?" She looked startled as I entered with the box, instinctively asking. There was no panic on her face, the kind you'd expect when caught off guard. "The office relocated," I said calmly. "I had to bring my things home first." "To where?" Emily frowned. Before I could answer, Maguire suddenly cut in. "Thomas, lately, since my father passed, I've been in a really dark place emotionally. I did a lot of things wrong, like suggesting Emily have a child with me. Looking back, that idea sounds insane. But nothing ever happened between us. Now that my dad is gone, I don't need to carry on his legacy anymore. Please don't hold it against me." He wore a pitiful expression. If I hadn't received that envelope, if I hadn't seen the hidden provocation in their chat history, maybe I would have believed him. But now, I didn't even feel like exposing Maguire's petty games. I just nodded indifferently and carried the box to my room. As soon as I set it down, I heard my phone ring, but the sound wasn't coming from my pocket. It was from the living room. That's when I realized I'd left my phone out there. Just as I turned to retrieve it, the door pushed open. Emily stood there, her face dark with emotion. One hand held my phone, the other stared at me, eyes sharp. "Who's the wife saved in your phone?" This was the first time I'd ever seen Emily look like this. All these years, she'd always been composed, cold, unshakable in front of me. I'd thought she was incapable of jealousy. I remembered when I was courting her, people used to tell me, "You have to play it smart when chasing someone. Guys like you, clinging to her every day, end up becoming invisible. She gets so used to you, she stops noticing. Eventually, she'll just grow tired." So I learned to pull back, intentionally stopped contacting her for days. Even hung around with other girls in front of her, hoping to stir some reaction. But back then, whenever she saw me with other girls, her expression never changed. She'd simply walk past me, not even sparing a glance. I realized then that the tactic of chase, then retreat, might work on others. But it was useless on Emily. After that, we fell back into our old rhythm. Her walking ahead, me chasing behind. In the blink of an eye, 6 years passed. Now, finally, I saw her jealous. But it was far too late. I reached for my phone, ready to explain, when McGuire's voice came again from behind her. Must be a buddy thing. My friends often label each other wife as a joke. Since he'd already offered an excuse, I didn't bother correcting him. Without another word, I took my phone and returned to my room, calling Olivia back. She had called out of the blue. I assumed it was urgent. But as soon as I answered, she started asking trivial things. Have you eaten yet? It's been raining non-stop in Sevilla lately. How's the weather in London? Is it raining there too? I heard it's getting colder in London now. Stay warm, don't get sick. At first, I answered each question politely, waiting for her to get to the point. But she kept circling around, never saying what she really wanted. Finally, I snapped. Look, what do you actually want? If you're not going to say it, I'm hanging up. Hearing that, she finally stopped beating around the bush and asked directly. Do you regret it? Are you really serious about swapping brides? Is that why you've been dancing around for so long? I couldn't help but laugh, half exasperated, half amused. Olivia responded with a solemn, quiet, yes. Her voice carrying a barely perceptible hint of hurt. Didn't you love your girlfriend so much? I almost asked how she knew. But then I remembered, since college. From the moment I first saw Emily. To my relentless pursuit. Finally confessing successfully. The joy I felt every day. Moved by my own devotion. Then the wedding plans, the breakup, the switch. For years, my life had revolved around Emily. I'd worn my love for her so openly. Wishing the whole world could know. Thomas loves Emily, deeply, endlessly. But in this situation, it was hard for anyone not to notice. I gave a self-mocking smile and shook my head. A long silence followed, one that left Olivia on the other end of the line quietly anxious. She braced herself, expecting to hear me say, "No, I still love her." And then she'd tell me to forget about switching brides. But instead, she heard my answer. "I don't like her anymore." A brief pause, then I quickly added, softening the blow. "Don't worry, I said I'd switch brides and marry you. I won't back out because of her." The call finally ended. When I finished packing and stepped out, McGuire was still there, sitting in the living room chatting with Emily. Seeing me, his expression darkened slightly. After hesitating for a long moment, he finally brought up the contact note. "Talked it over with your buddy? Maybe from now on, you shouldn't label your friends as wife like that." I looked at him in mild surprise. I hadn't expected him to bring it up again. I nodded, as if in response. No one knew whether I was agreeing to his earlier excuse, to this latest comment, or to both. Emily assumed I'd accepted, so her mood visibly lightened. Yet every flicker of emotion passed across her face was caught by McGuire's watchful eyes. In that instant, his expression twisted into something complicated. He hadn't expected Emily to still feel possessive toward me. In his mind, she was supposed to be indifferent, completely over me. "It's still early," McGuire said with a forced smile. "Thomas, Emily, how about we all go out for dinner and a movie? Consider it my way of thanking you two for being so patient with me lately. What do you say?" Looking at his fake, sugary smile, I could guess exactly what this was about. It wasn't just a casual outing, it was a performance. He wanted to show me how kind, how gentle, how devoted Emily was to him. I shook my head. First, I had no interest in playing childish games with them anymore. Second, I needed to get home soon, I still had things to sort out. But McGuire wasn't about to let this chance slip away. Seeing me refuse, he instantly put on a pitiful, wounded look and turned to Emily. "Emily, does Senior Thomas still hate me? I know I've been selfish lately, doing all those crazy things. Of course he's angry, it's all my fault." His voice cracked, eyes welling up, so convincingly miserable that Emily's heart visibly softened. At once, her gaze shifted to me, warm and pleading. I sighed inwardly. If I kept refusing, McGuire would probably burst into tears. And I'd end up looking like the cold-hearted villain who wouldn't forgive a grieving son. After some back and forth, I was eventually dragged out the door. Since it was dinner time anyway, the three of us headed to a restaurant. Maguire picked the place, a seafood restaurant. As we settled into the private dining room, I studied Emily closely. She instinctively avoided my gaze, focusing instead on Maguire as he ordered. And in her eyes, just for a second, was a flicker of tenderness. Emily flinched internally. She knew I was allergic to seafood. But Maguire had insisted this place had the best seafood in town. So here we were. When the food arrived, their plates were piled high with shellfish and fish, while mine held only a glass of plain water. Maguire happily ate, with Emily personally peeling shrimp and plucking meat for him. He glanced at me, puzzled. "Senior Thomas, this seafood is amazing. You're really not going to try any?" I almost smirked, about to respond, when Emily swiftly changed the subject. A plate of peeled shrimp was placed right in front of Maguire. His eyes lit up, he dug in joyfully, forgetting his question entirely. After dinner, Maguire insisted we go to the movies together. After much deliberation, he chose a horror film. Only when we entered the theater did I understand his real motive. I sat on the far end. Beside me, Maguire screamed at every jump scare. First grabbing Emily's Coke by mistake in panic, then clinging tightly to her hand when a ghost suddenly appeared. Whimpering, "I'm scared." By the end, he'd practically thrown himself into her arms. Emily froze. Instinctively, she frowned, raising her hand as if to push him away. But after a pause, seeing his terrified face, thinking of Professor James, she slowly let her hand drop. She turned her head and met my eyes, staring straight ahead, calm and composed, as if nothing had happened. "Thomas?" She rarely called me by name so softly. She started to explain, but I'd already turned back to the screen, appearing completely absorbed in the movie, as if I hadn't noticed a thing. Her explanation died in her throat, hanging awkwardly in the air. Emily felt a strange discomfort in her chest. But the man in her arms let out a small whimper, and she immediately pushed down her unease, turning to gently soothe Maguire beside her. Hearing her soothing voice, I couldn't help but chuckle under my breath. Thinking I'd never return to this city again, I decided to say goodbye to a few close friends first. I sent a message in our group chat. "Let's meet up. There are a few things I want to say to you all." Daniel replied first, the one who'd messaged me most often. Quickly, he wrote, "Perfect, we've got a class reunion coming up. Why not then? I'll be there." Everyone agreed. On the day of the reunion, I left home early. When I arrived at the reserved room, everyone else was already there. Seeing me walk in, they turned, curious, and one by one began asking, "Thomas, you said the other day you had something to tell us. What is it?" I nodded slowly and replied, "In 2 days, I'm heading home to get married. After that, I don't know if we'll ever meet again. You're all welcome to come to my wedding." The moment I finished speaking, the room fell silent. Everyone suddenly remembered that status I'd posted a while back. "Wait, Thomas, was that joke for real? Are you seriously breaking up with Emily and going home to marry someone else? Does Emily even know about this?" Before the question could finish, the door swung open. Emily's voice cut through the air. "What does she need to know?" Seeing her appear so suddenly, everyone exchanged glances. Finally, Daniel broke the tension with a loud laugh. "Who let our brilliant genius in? Did you draw your fortune yet?" Seeing Emily frown in confusion, he quickly explained, "Jose's been into fortune-telling lately. Everyone has to pull a card so he can test his skills." At the mention of his name, Jose eagerly stepped forward, deck in hand. Come on, everyone pick one." I grabbed a card at random. Honestly, I'd been swept along by events since walking in. Emily followed suit and drew one too. Daniel egged us on. "Hurry up, let's see what fate has in store." I was mildly curious. How accurate could this be? When I flipped my card over, these words stared back. "Expectation leads to disappointment. When you desire nothing, abundance returns." I read it calmly. Not wrong, really. I handed the card back to Jose without comment. He patted my shoulder like he was comforting me. This doesn't look great, but doesn't it also say a happy surprise is coming later? Don't stress, it'll work out. I nodded, then glanced at Emily. She turned over her card, and the words froze me in place. Everyone around fell silent. One of them snatched the card from her hand. Read it, paused, then quickly shoved it back at Jose. Jose, looks like your skills still need work. Everyone knows Thomas and Emily are solid. How could it possibly say, everlasting love? That line hung in the air. Some of the guys shifted awkwardly. But how couldn't it? I was already planning to leave the city. To leave Emily behind and marry someone else. Still, most people here didn't know the truth. Soon, laughter erupted, mocking Jose's inaccurate cards, growing louder and more chaotic. Just then, amid the noise, Emily's phone rang. I couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but I saw her expression change instantly. Her eyes snapped to me. Thomas, come with me to the hospital. Now. I had no idea what this had to do with me. But seeing how serious she looked, I didn't ask questions, just followed. The car sped toward the hospital. Every traffic jam only amplified the urgency in her face, the blaring horn echoing her anxiety. A 30-minute drive was cut down to just over 10. Without a word, she led me straight to the rooftop. As soon as we stepped out, I saw a man holding a knife, backed against the railing, with a terrified, tear-streaked Maguire in his grip. When the man spotted Emily, hope flared in his eyes. Emily, help me. Before I could process anything, a strong force shoved me forward. A familiar voice came from behind. Look clearly, this is my boyfriend. Let him go, he's innocent. He means nothing to me. Killing him won't accomplish anything. Only if you take my boyfriend hostage will you get what you want. Only then did it click. She'd rushed me here just to use me as bait, to trade me for Maguire's safety. With the whispers of the surrounding crowd, I finally understood. Some obsessed stalker had been watching us for days. Seeing Emily constantly with Maguire, he assumed he was her boyfriend, and kidnapped him. In that instant, it felt like ice water had been dumped over me. My whole body went cold. Behind me, Emily didn't hesitate, she shoved me another step forward. How absurd. My girlfriend spends every day with another man. And when crisis hits, she throws me forward as a shield. To protect her mentor's grieving son. The kidnapper looked from Maguire in his arms to me, now pushed into the open. Maybe during his stalking, he'd seen me standing there, refusing to fear the knife. So now, cautiously, he loosened his grip slightly. He scanned the area, preparing to exchange hostages. But just as he let go, police swarmed from all sides. One disarmed him in a flash, another pulled Maguire to safety. The second Maguire was free. Emily rushed to him. Maguire, are you okay? He collapsed into her arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Emily, I was so scared. Only after confirming he was safe did she remember I'd been the one she'd pushed forward. She turned sharply to me. Are you okay? But when I looked at her, my gaze was utterly calm, empty of everything. Emily wasn't one to explain herself. Most of the time, she didn't care what others thought. But today, seeing me like this, something inside her trembled. She realized, with a jolt, that an emotion she couldn't control was rising within her. Thomas, she said, voice steady, trying to justify it. The police were already in position. All you had to do was step forward. Distract him. That was the plan. It made sense, logical, reasonable. I didn't argue with her. Yes, it was just a plan. After all, I was unharmed. But what if things had gone wrong? She was my girlfriend. And yet she could so calmly use my life as leverage to save someone else? At that moment, I looked at her like she was a stranger. Thomas, look at her. This is the woman you gave everything for, moved to a foreign city just to be near her. Do you regret it? I thought, yes, I did. Thankfully, it wasn't too late to make up for it. After that day, Emily said Maguire had been kidnapped because of her, traumatized by fear. She couldn't help but worry, so she stayed by his side constantly, never leaving him alone. But she forgot one thing. On that same day, she was the one who pushed me straight into danger. Luckily, I'd already decided to let go of this hopeless relationship. I wouldn't hurt myself over her anymore. Once again, I was left alone in the apartment. Piece by piece, I cleared out everything tied to Emily. The wedding photos we'd taken earlier, I brought them home, only to pull them out again and throw each one into the fire. Only after watching the flames consume every image did I turn my gaze to the rest of the room. To bridge the gap between us, I'd once bought countless couples items for her. Toothbrushes and mugs stuck together with matching hooks. Towels in different colors but embroidered with the same cute design. Matching outfits hanging in the closet. A pair of bracelets kept in the jewelry box. I gathered them all, tossed them into a cardboard box, and threw it away. From now on, I wouldn't need any of it. Once I'd gotten rid of what needed to go, I began packing my things. This place used to feel like a second home to me. I dreamed that one day, every corner would carry traces of me. I imagined that whenever Emily saw these little things, she'd think of me. Slowly, she'd accept me, fall for me, grow unable to live without me. But even now, none of that had ever happened. There was a lot of stuff, so packing took time. That evening, when Emily came home, I still hadn't finished. The door opened, she stepped in, her eyes sweeping over the pile of clothes on the bed. I tensed slightly, wondering how to explain, when she asked first, "Are you going on a business trip?" I froze for a second, then turned back to continue packing, hiding the mocking smile at the corner of my lips. "I've already quit." "What trip?" She seemed genuinely surprised I might leave. But that was fine. I didn't want to say much. I grunted softly and added, "Tomorrow morning." Emily just nodded, no further questions. She turned and went to cook dinner. She was an excellent cook, just rarely did it, usually too busy with work. Lately, though, she'd been cooking more often. It was a shame, though, all those meals were meant for Maguire. After dinner, Emily pulled out a gift box and placed it in front of me. I was caught off guard, glancing at her in surprise. She almost never initiated anything like this. I didn't reach for the box. Instead, I asked directly, "What's going on?" Hesitating for a moment, she recalled my expression when I'd walked away that day. Finally, she whispered, barely audible, "I'm sorry." So that was why she was acting so differently today. But I'd already made my decision to let go, to give her to Maguire. Her protecting him was no longer my concern. My calm reaction clearly startled her. Still, she continued, "Maguire hasn't been doing well lately. I've requested leave. I'll be spending more time with him these next few days." My expression didn't change. In all our years together, she'd never taken time off for my birthday, our anniversaries, or even when I was sick. Now, just because Maguire was unhappy, she immediately requested leave. What more could I possibly say? "You do what you need to." Hearing those 4 words, she fell silent. Then, for the first time in rare moments, Emily stepped forward and hugged me. "Thomas, Maguire is the son of my mentor. After Professor James passed, he hasn't been well. Now this incident scared him. Let me stay with him for a while. Later, I'll make it up to you. Okay?" I didn't agree. I didn't refuse. But inside, I wondered, do we even have a later anymore? The next morning, I rolled my suitcase to the door. Emily had already come back with breakfast. "I'll take you to the airport later." I said nothing, just sat down and ate in silence. After finishing, as we prepared to leave, I glanced at my phone, then said the words I knew were coming. "Thomas, something urgent came up. I can't see you off." I didn't need to guess, the call was definitely from Maguire. I simply nodded. "Go ahead, do what you need to." Seeing me agree so easily, she relaxed completely. Before stepping out, she turned and added, "When you come back, let me know. I'll pick you up then." Then she left, without looking back. I watched her figure disappear, then whispered quietly, "Emily, I won't be coming back." Finally, I left a note on the table. "Let's break up." I'm going home to get married. I rolled my suitcase out, hailed a cab, and headed to the airport. From now on, my life would no longer include Emily. After several exhausting hours, the plane landed in Manchester. As I pushed my luggage out, I checked my messages. I'll be at the airport soon. Have you arrived? I replied, then looked up. In the crowded terminal, I spotted Olivia. She wore a simple dress, red lipstick, every movement radiating grace and poise. Occasionally glancing at her phone, occasionally scanning the crowd, searching. The moment she saw me, she waved, stood up, and walked toward me. For a brief moment, admiration flickered in my eyes. I hadn't expected it. The childhood friend who used to trail behind me every day, bickering endlessly, had now transformed into this. What, speechless? The woman with graceful poise stopped right in front of me, teasing me with a playful smile. Once we're officially married, you can stare at me as long as you want. Unaware of my own fluster, I blushed, trying hard to stay composed. I shot Olivia a sideways glance and shot back. Haven't seen you in ages. And you're still just as full of yourself. She simply smiled and casually slipped her arm through mine, pulling me toward the exit. I've got the looks, why shouldn't I be confident? I was speechless. Staring at her radiant, beautiful face, I couldn't come up with a single comeback. Because honestly, she was stunning. From childhood to adulthood, she'd always been the standout, the top student, the school beauty, the ultimate queen bee. Every guy had a crush on back then. Outwardly cool and mature, yet strangely innocent at heart. Not a single boy dared confess to her without getting a firm, serious rejection. We're students. Our top priority is studying. How can we think about silly things like romance? After high school, we went our separate ways. Though I never intentionally kept up with her life. I'd vaguely heard over the years that she'd remained single. Thinking of that, I suddenly looked up at her and asked. Back then, everyone thought you were joking. So why did you agree to such a crazy request? As I spoke, we reached the parking lot and stopped by her car. Olivia opened the passenger door for me, waited until I sat down, then walked around to the driver's side. She frowned slightly at me. I thought you already knew. Knew what? I don't understand anything. I stared back, confused. Seeing my blank expression, Olivia let out a soft sigh and turned away, avoiding a direct answer. The car slowly pulled out of the parking space. Just when I assumed she wouldn't say more, she suddenly spoke, voice light and casual as ever. You've done plenty of crazy things yourself, haven't you? So of course I believed you. What if it was real? And what if it was real, maybe I'd finally get lucky for once. Her words stunned me for a second. Then, catching her playful gaze, it all clicked. She was referring to the time I stayed in London for Emily. Her next sentence confirmed it. I finally understood, and my ears turned slightly red, feeling oddly self-conscious. You don't mean you actually like me, do you? The traffic light turned green. The car moved forward. And so did her soft laughter. Yeah, I've liked you for a very, very long time. Longer than you've ever liked Emily. When we were kids, I didn't know any better. I thought if I just annoyed you enough, you'd figure it out. But you were such an idiot, running off to some faraway place. Staying there for a woman who never truly appreciated you. Thankfully, I was patient enough to wait until you finally came back to me. She kept the last part, the inner monologue, to herself. But those 6 words, I've liked you for a long time, were enough to leave me completely dazed. It wasn't until the car stopped at my apartment complex that I snapped out of it. Olivia, when exactly did this start? This time, she dodged the question with a coy smile. You tell me. That familiar, frustrating feeling washed over me again. Speechless, I opened the door and stepped out. Olivia followed closely, walking beside me. Our buildings were close, our routes home were the same. In the elevator, we stood in silence. I stared at my shoes, while she leaned casually against the wall, quietly watching my ears grow redder. When the doors opened, she walked me right to my door. She didn't let me step closer. Even though I was the guy, I couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Smirking, she reached up and ruffled my hair. And before I could protest, she turned and walked away. But not before tossing one last reminder over her shoulder. In 2 days, I'm bringing my parents over to discuss our wedding plans. Thomas, you better be ready. I gave her a look, pulled out my keys, and opened the door. No reply. She didn't seem to mind, skipping happily toward the stairs. It was just 1 floor. But right now, she was so happy she'd probably run up 20 without breaking a sweat. I dragged my suitcase inside. It had been 6 years since I'd last been home, yet everything felt strangely familiar. With no one in the living room, the sound of the wheels rolling across the floor echoed clearly. Hearing the noise, Mr. John, his hair now fully silver, thought a burglar had broken in. He stormed out with his cane, shouting dramatically, "Who dares break into the John household?" He hadn't even finished the sentence when he saw me standing in the middle of the room, tears welling in his eyes. Thud, the cane dropped to the floor. Mr. John didn't bother picking it up. His eyes reddened as he turned and rushed into his room. I quickly dropped my suitcase and ran after him. Just as he was about to lie down, I wrapped my arms tightly around him. "Grandpa, I missed you so much." His body trembled, his voice cracked. "Don't believe it, you rotten kid. You said you were just going to study, that you'd come back during breaks." But I waited and waited, 6 whole years. He had known I was coming back soon. Just not the exact day. That news came from Olivia. "You didn't even call once. You've forgotten about this old man, haven't you? How dare you say you missed me?" Grandpa John huffed, refusing to turn around, still trying weakly to push me away. But I held on tight. Tears fell silently onto his shoulder. Feeling my warmth, he finally sighed and stopped resisting. Still, he grumbled under his breath. "Missed me? For 6 years you vanish. Leave me here alone, never check in. If it weren't for Olivia visiting me almost every day, no one would have even known when I passed." I quickly covered his mouth, forcing out a nervous laugh. "You have to live to be 100. No talking like that." But hearing his words, guilt flooded my heart. "I'm sorry, Grandpa. It's all my fault. I won't leave again. I'll stay with you, always. Okay?" Grandpa John shook his head firmly. "Nonsense. I'm still waiting for you to get married, to have children. Only when I see you truly happy. Can I rest easy and go meet your grandma and parents?" Hearing that, my chest tightened even more. I knew that day would come, sooner or later. But deep down, I just hoped it would come, a little later. We shifted to lighter topics from our childhood, and the mood gradually softened. Grandpa John looked at me, quietly reflective. "You've grown, lost some weight, change. But no matter how much Thomas changes, Thomas will always be my grandson." I leaned against Grandpa's shoulder, my heart finally settling. He let out a hearty laugh, but then grew slightly worried as he remembered my wedding plans. "Didn't you say before that you were getting married soon? Why did you suddenly come back?" I shook my head, not wanting to go into details. "We just weren't right for each other, so we called it off." Seeing Grandpa start to worry again, I remembered Olivia's words when she left. My ears warmed slightly. After a moment of hesitation, I decided to tell him the truth. Olivia said, in 2 days, she'll bring her parents over to discuss our wedding. The second I finished speaking, Grandpa's eyes widened in shock. He sat there for a long moment, processing what I just said, then burst into loud laughter. "Perfect. That girl suffered silently for years, and now she's actually made it to this day." Meanwhile, back in London, Emily returned home 3 days later. It was already late at night. She pushed the door open into complete darkness. Instinctively, she called my name. But time passed in silence, the house remained still. She flipped on the lights. The apartment looked exactly as it had when she left, empty. Unchanged. Only then did she remember, I was away on a business trip. Come to think of it, I hadn't contacted her these past few days. We'd even agreed before I left, I'd let her know when I was returning. And she'd come pick me up. But I hadn't said a word. As Emily walked toward the living room, she pulled out her phone and opened our chat. One glance, And she saw all my old messages, so many they nearly filled the screen. Funny stories from work. Little updates about daily life. Careful questions asking if she wanted to stay with me. Messages sent without reply. Yet I never gave up, sending something every single day. But looking closer, the most recent message was over half a month ago. Has Thomas really not reached out to me all this time? A strange unease stirred inside her. For the first time, she was the one who initiated a message. Is your work done? When are you coming back? She sent it. No reply came. Anxious, she checked the time, 11 p.m. She sighed, convincing herself. Maybe it's too late. Thomas probably didn't see it. Putting her phone down, she glanced at the table and froze. There was a note. Curious, she picked it up. Just a few lines, but each word hit her like a hammer to the chest. Emily, let's break up. I'm going home to get married. She couldn't believe her eyes. She turned the paper over and over, reading it again and again, desperately hoping to find another line. Got you. Just kidding. Then she could scold me. How can you joke about breaking up in marriage like this? But no. No matter how many times she read it, the words stayed the same, unchanged, unyielding. Thomas might actually mean it. Her eyes welled up instantly. Hands trembling, she grabbed her phone, snapped a photo of the note, and sent it to me, with an angry message. What is this supposed to mean? But after sending, a red exclamation mark appeared. Under the image, a small warning popped up. The recipient has blocked unknown contacts. You are not on their friend list. Please send a friend request. Messaging is only possible after verification. Her mind went blank. It took her a long time to understand. I had deleted her. Dizzy, hands shaking, she dialed my number. The dial tone rang, then switched to a robotic voice. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. She tried again. This time, the call failed immediately. She'd been blocked. Emily didn't understand. Was caring a little more for McGuire really worth being treated like this? Hadn't she already explained? McGuire was her mentor's son. After Professor James's passing, his mental state had deteriorated. What exactly was I angry about? Besides, hadn't I already agreed to her staying with McGuire this time? Why was I still sulking? Even now, Emily believed I was just throwing a tantrum. Thomas loves me so much, he even moved to this foreign city for me. How could he truly leave and marry someone else? But what she still didn't grasp was this wasn't some sudden departure. It was simply that, at this very moment, she had just realized it. Unable to reach me, she frantically asked in the class group chat. But it was too late, no one replied. Numb, she returned to the bedroom. As she prepared to wash her face, she noticed. The gifts I'd once given her with such joy, she'd never worn a single one. Our couple outfits, buried at the bottom of the closet, were now gone. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, mind spinning in chaos. How could this happen? How could Thomas just leave like this? He must just be angry. At worst, tomorrow I'll go find him, apologize, comfort him, and he'll come back. Emily wasn't sure. But right now, all she could do was wait. She spent the entire night awake, tossing and turning, constantly checking her phone for any reply. The next afternoon, a message finally arrived. From the group chat, sender, Daniel. Emily opened it, heart racing. It was a photo. And the moment she saw it, she felt like lightning had struck her. A wedding photo. The man in the white suit, smiling gently at his bride, was Thomas. And the woman leaning into him, arms wrapped around his waist, eyes brimming with love, was not her. She stared at the image, mind empty, body numb, as if the world had vanished around her. Ting, another message popped up. You've been looking for Thomas? He's gone back to the city where he belongs, to get married. I heard the wedding's next week. Don't you think the bride suits Thomas perfectly? The wedding would be held next week. Message after message hit Emily like a storm, leaving her dazed and disoriented. Her hands trembled, unable to react. No way. How could Thomas just go marry someone else like this? Besides, he had only just returned home. Even if he wanted to get married, how could everything be arranged so quickly? He must be faking it, just trying to make her jealous. Waiting for her to come beg him back. At that thought, a sudden surge of energy shot through her. Her spirits lifted instantly. Fingers hovering over her phone screen. She hesitated, then finally sent a message to Daniel. "Do you know where Thomas is now?" Emily had planned to go straight to him. It had already been 4 days since he left. Surely by now, Thomas must be anxiously waiting for her, right? But as she was about to book a flight, it suddenly struck her. She had no idea where he was from. She couldn't even remember his hometown. On the other end, Daniel read the message and nearly exploded with rage. Now he understood completely why Thomas, after loving Emily for years, after coming so close to marriage, had suddenly walked away. 6 years together, Thomas gave up everything to stay in London for her. And yet, even now, she didn't know where he came from. He'd heard that not long ago. She'd even pushed Thomas toward armed thugs just to save another man. Even if there were backup forces nearby, what did it matter? In her heart, Thomas had never been her first priority. Daniel gritted his teeth, furious, and replied without holding back. "What do you want? Planning to crash the groom's wedding? Give it a rest. You never appreciated the person right beside you. What more are you going to do now? Just do us all a favor, stay far away from Thomas." Emily frowned deeply. Getting nothing from Daniel, she decided to take matters into her own hands. 3 days before the wedding, I unexpectedly received a call. Since I blocked Emily's number, when an unknown number flashed on my screen, I didn't think twice, I answered. But the next second, I regretted it. "Thomas, I've been looking for you forever. You finally picked up." Hearing her voice, I immediately wanted to hang up, no words, no explanation. But Emily seemed to anticipate my move and quickly pleaded. "Don't hang up. I know I made you angry lately. Just tell me where you are. I'll come find you, okay?" She softened her voice as much as possible, sounding genuinely apologetic. Then, from the phone, another voice cut in, sweet, slightly plaintive. "Honey, who are you talking to for so long?" Hearing the word, honey, Emily felt like lightning had struck her. But what shocked her even more was, I didn't deny it. Instead, I calmly, firmly replied, "Nobody important. Nobody important." Those 3 simple words rang in her ears, making her world collapse around her. She didn't even realize I'd already hung up. Suddenly, a memory flashed. Not long ago, when I'd left my phone in the living room, she'd seen a contact saved as wife. Back then, she'd brushed it off, McGuire had said. Guys sometimes labeled their friend's wife as a joke. But now, everything made perfect sense. That person wasn't a friend at all. She was the woman who'd just spoken. Rage clouded Emily's mind. But there was nothing she could do. Of course I'd blocked that number the moment the call ended. Still, her heart screamed. I never agreed to break up. How can you just move on and marry someone else? Was this relationship really mine to decide? Do I get to say, I love you, and it begins? And then, I'm done, and it ends? Emily's eyes darkened. One thought solidified in her mind. She wouldn't give up like this. She immediately tracked down my college class president and managed to get my home address. She prepared to leave. But just then, her phone rang again. She looked at the screen, 2 big letters, McGuire. After a pause, she turned and headed toward McGuire instead. It's fine, she thought. I'll handle this quickly, then go straight to him. I won't let Thomas marry someone else, absolutely not. What Emily didn't expect was that this delay would stretch into 3 full days. By the time she dealt with McGuire's situation, she realized it was already my wedding day. 3 days passed in a flash. Olivia and I held our wedding at a hotel not far from home. Though the timeline was tight, I hadn't cut corners at all. Wedding photos, banquet, dress, rings, honeymoon suite. Everything was meticulously prepared. So thoroughly that, as the groom, I hardly had to lift a finger. On the wedding day, Olivia and I arrived early at the hotel to change and get ready. She entrusted the guest reception entirely to her parents. As for herself, she stayed by my side, patiently watching me as I got dressed. Noticing Olivia staring at me without blinking, I grew curious and asked, "You've prepared everything so perfectly, you weren't waiting until I came back to start, were you?" She cleared her throat lightly, glancing away. "Of course not, I've been ready for a long time. The honeymoon suite, the dress, the ring, all prepared ages ago. If you'd married someone else, those things would have stayed hidden forever. But if you married me," she smiled softly, "I'd bring them out the very moment you said yes. The rest, the invitations, the venue, I only started preparing after you said you wanted to switch brides." She didn't say it outright, but the way her eyes shimmered told me everything. And because of that, I grew even more curious. She admitted she liked me, but never said when it started. She always left me feeling like there was still something she hadn't told me. If she'd turned around then, she would have seen my dazed expression. Knowing that, at this very second, my mind was racing with thoughts. Just then, the groom's makeup artist finished up. As she packed her tools, she laughed and said, "Your guy's practically camera ready, barely needed any touch-up. After 15 years in this business, this has been the easiest, most relaxing groom I've ever worked on." Hearing that, Olivia stepped closer, leaned in, and gently kissed my lips. A soft peck, and gone. But my face flushed instantly. Her eyes lit up with satisfaction. Seeing my flustered look, she broke into a bright, teasing smile. "Well, duh, you should see whose husband you are." Right after, I lightly tapped her head. Olivia clutched her head dramatically, wailing, "Husband, are you trying to kill your wife?" I panicked, thinking I'd hit her too hard. I reached out to check, only to be suddenly pulled into a tight hug. Her voice dropped to a sweet, playful whisper. "Honey, why do you still call me by my full name?" She feigned hurt, her exaggerated expression making me want to roll my eyes. The makeup artist couldn't help but laugh at our playful bickering. Gave us a quick reminder not to mess up the groom's look. Then left the dressing room, leaving the newlyweds alone in peace. We kept teasing each other for a bit longer, until it was nearly time for the ceremony. Olivia stepped out first. Just then, my phone rang from the side table. An unknown number flashed on the screen. My first instinct? Emily. Without thinking, I immediately swiped to end the call. But not long after, the same number called again. Then I paused. Not every unknown caller had to be her. I didn't need to avoid all strangers just because of one person. With that thought, I answered. Sure enough, a completely unfamiliar voice came through. "Hello, hi, is this Thomas?" I grunted a quiet, "Yeah," saying nothing more, waiting for them to explain. Once they confirmed my identity, they got straight to the point. "This is the emergency department at Manchester City Hospital. Your girlfriend, Ms. Emily, was in a car accident due to speeding. Her condition isn't good. Can you come to Manchester City as soon as possible?" For a second, I froze, my mind blank. It took a moment to process what I just heard. What? Emily was in Manchester? And she'd been in a car crash because she was speeding? "Thomas, are you still there?" Hearing no response, the nurse repeated gently, snapping me back to reality. I opened my mouth and said, clearly and directly, "I'm sorry, but we've already broken up. Besides, I'm getting married today. I don't have time to go. Can you try contacting someone else?" With that, I hung up. Even though deep down, I suspected she'd come to Manchester because of me. Just as I'd said, we were done. Her life no longer had anything to do with mine. She had plenty of people she could turn to. Ellipsis. On the other end, the nurse stared at the deadline, her expression strained. Just then, a doctor rushed over, asking if she'd reached the family yet. She shook her head and hurried off to make another call. Who could have guessed? The number the patient had saved as boyfriend belonged to someone who wasn't just ex, but was literally getting married right now. Ellipsis. It took an hour before they finally reached Emily's parents. When they learned their daughter had been in a serious car accident, that both legs had suffered severe compression leading to nerve necrosis, requiring amputation, and that her right hand had been slashed by debris, damaging tendons, though emergency care had prevented further damage. She might never lift heavy objects or perform delicate tasks again. They collapsed under the weight of it. They booked flights to Manchester immediately. Only after contacting the family and getting consent did the doctors feel confident moving forward with surgery. Ellipsis. Meanwhile, at the wedding, the ballroom buzzed with guests. Olivia, in a floor-length wedding gown, walked slowly toward me down the aisle. Grandpa had always said he hoped his grandson would find someone to spend his life with. But now that the day had actually arrived, even he couldn't hold back tears. "Why are you crying, Grandpa? Today's supposed to be a happy day." I said it lightly, but seeing his red-rimmed eyes, mine welled up too. Still, I held it together and forced a smile. "And besides, the new house isn't far. Even after marriage, I can still visit you all the time, right?" Grandpa saw the tear glistening at the corner of my eye and patted my hand gently. "All right, no more crying, we'll both stop." That long aisle suddenly felt so short. As Olivia and I joined hands, he looked at us solemnly and said, voice thick with emotion, "Thomas, take good care of Olivia from now on. You two must love each other. Stay together for life." He'd promised not to cry, but in the end, his voice broke anyway. Time spares no one. In the blink of an eye, he'd become an old man. And the little boy he once cradled in his arms, playfully making him laugh, had grown up and was about to get married. Olivia nodded solemnly, gripping my hand tightly, her eyes soft and full of promise. "Don't worry, Grandpa, I'll take good care of Thomas. I won't let you down, and I won't let him down either." Amid the warm wishes of everyone present, we exchanged rings, officially husband and wife. "Thomas, I've finally married you." Ellipsis. Meanwhile, Maguire arrived at Manchester General Hospital that afternoon with Emily's parents. Seeing their daughter lying motionless in bed, Mrs. Emily burst into tears. Her brilliant daughter, a deputy chief physician at such a young age. How could she ever stand in an operating room again? Ellipsis. A week later, Emily finally woke up. The first thing she saw was her parents and Maguire beside her. But not the person she'd been hoping for. "Mom, Dad, did you see Thomas? Did he come to visit me?" Her voice was weak, breath shallow from waking after such trauma. Hearing that, her parents' hearts ached. They tried hard not to reveal the truth. But Maguire, eyes already red, broke down sobbing by her bedside. He pulled out his phone, opened social media, and shoved it in front of her, his voice laced with bitterness. "You ended up like this for him, and you're still thinking about him? These past few days, he's been busy getting married, then going on his honeymoon. Living his best life. Why would he even remember you?" Maguire had never wanted Emily and me to reconnect. So he made sure to crush any lingering hope she had. But he forgot, she'd just woken up. She wasn't ready for a shock like this. Before her parents could stop him, she saw the photo, the moment of the accident. The post on Thomas's social media. She stared at the phone, eyes glued to the screen. There it was, Thomas's caption. And beside it, a bright red marriage certificate bearing Olivia's name. Her eyes burned with tears. Her heart flooded with disbelief. How could this be? How is this possible? Has he really already married someone else? If so, could he really just walk away so easily? Just toss aside 6 years of their relationship like nothing? Then what were those 6 years even for? She didn't understand. She couldn't believe it. Struggling to sit up, she tried to get out of bed, to go find Thomas. But the movement sent a jolt through her body, leaving her numb and paralyzed. Emily looked down at the brutal, jagged scar across her wrist. Her heart plummeted. Her right hand twitched uselessly. Her legs, no sensation at all. Trembling, she reached to pull back the blanket covering her. But her parents immediately grabbed her arms, shaking their heads firmly, refusing to let her see. Didn't she understand yet? She was a doctor. She hadn't been fully unconscious during the accident. Deep down, she'd seen her injuries then. It was just that upon waking, her mind had clung to denial, trying to shield her from the truth. Voice breaking, she stared desperately at her parents, ignoring McGuire pushed to the side. Mom, Dad, my legs, my hands, they're still there, right? They're still intact? But they stayed silent, still gripping the blanket, shielding her from reality. Her mother, always emotional, burst into tears. In the struggle, McGuire finally sensed something was wrong. He quietly put his phone away and spoke softly, trying to comfort her. Emily, it's going to be okay. You'll recover, I'll always be by your side. But before he could finish, Emily unleashed all her pain and rage on him. She shoved him hard. He fell backward, his head slamming against a nearby chair before crashing to the floor. This time, though, she felt nothing, not a trace of guilt. It's your fault Thomas left me. It's your fault I ended up like this. Get out, just leave me alone. Her scream tore through the room, cutting McGuire to the core. His face turned pale, but he stubbornly refused to leave. Hearing her words, Emily's parents suddenly stiffened. What do you mean by that? Caught off guard, Emily froze. After a long silence, she collapsed back onto the bed, and in a choked voice, confessed everything that had happened recently. Her parents listened in shock, their expressions shifting again and again. Finally, they shook their heads in disappointment. All your life, we've worried about you, but how could you do something so reckless now? Emily didn't answer. She covered her face and sobbed. Even she didn't know why she'd done it. She only knew one thing, she loved him, and because of that, she couldn't let him go. Seeing her daughter broken like this, Mrs. Emily's heart ached, but she couldn't hold back her anger toward Thomas. Even if our daughter was wrong, she ended up like this because she wanted to see him. And yet he has no mercy at all. Emily wanted to defend him, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she found herself thinking, yes, look what I've become. And he never once came to see me. Just then, McGuire pulled out a ring, his voice hoarse as if grasping at his last chance. Emily, marry me, I'll spend my life taking care of you. The words stunned everyone in the room. Emily's mind went blank. Mechanically, she whispered, I can't marry you. When she rejected him, McGuire dropped to his knees, pleading with her parents. Please, let her marry me. But from the hospital bed, Emily screamed through sobs. I will never marry him. Emily lay in bed, eyes shut tight. She ignored her parents' pleas, leaving them helpless and exhausted. Why are you being so stubborn? McGuire clearly loves you. Now that you're like this, don't you need someone to take care of you? Are you still waiting for that Thomas to come back? He's already married someone else. What are you holding on to? Emily wasn't blind to the logic in their words. But deep inside, there was still a burning refusal to accept it. Before, she'd thought her feelings for Thomas were just habit. But now that he was truly gone, that he'd actually married another woman, the bleeding wound in her heart finally told her the truth. She loved him, and she couldn't live without him. Yet, as her father said, Thomas had moved on. No matter how long she waited, it would change nothing. Emily clenched her fist until her knuckles turned white. But the word, yes, she just couldn't bring herself to say it. How could she accept a fate like this? She'd been so close, just one step away from walking down the aisle with Thomas. Why did everything spiral out of control like this? These thoughts swirled in her mind, thoughts Thomas knew nothing about. After their honeymoon, Thomas and Olivia returned to Manchester. It was early September, the start of the school year, bustling with new students. On opening day, Olivia stood at the door while I bent down to fasten her collar button. She tilted her head up, gazing at me with lingering affection. Finally, her small hand gently patted the front of my shirt. I smiled, satisfied. There, see? Why do you insist on dressing so formally? Casual clothes would have been fine. But Olivia shook her head, unimpressed. She pointed to her cheek. When I glanced over and gave her a light kiss, she grinned triumphantly. Now my colleagues and students can see just how handsome and thoughtful my husband is. I rolled my eyes, pretending annoyance, and nudged her toward the door. Alright, go already. I wonder if Manchester regrets hiring you as a professor. Olivia laughed, raising an eyebrow smugly. They should feel lucky. Top graduate, top lecturer. Fine, we get it, you're amazing. Professor Genius. Now go. Don't let the first day of school start with the teacher being late. Pushed out the door, Olivia walked away laughing. She didn't care one bit about the annoyance in my actions, because she knew exactly what it meant. And yet, deeply satisfied, Olivia turned and walked away. Lately, a rumor had been spreading across the city. That famously aloof woman, the one who never quite smiled, she got married. Yeah, her mood had improved dramatically. Now she smiled so much every day. It looked like her cheeks might split from ear to ear. I only found out later, when I came to Manchester to visit her. Ever since the wedding, she'd basically posted about her wedding ring on social media daily. You ask why I'm dressed up today? 'Cause my husband likes it. You say today's lunchbox smells amazing? Of course, it's made by my husband, the cooking master. What am I doing tomorrow? Obviously going on a date with my darling hubby. Back then, I had no idea. I was just thinking about finding a new job. Then, a knock sounded at the door. Puzzled, I stood up and opened it. The delivery guy confirmed my name and handed me a package. After signing for it, I brought it inside and opened it. Inside was just a red invitation card. I pulled it out and flipped it open, and the first thing I saw were two names at the top. Emily, McGuire. So they really did end up together after all. But what kind of situation was this? Sending me an invite? Were they showing off? Or trying to make a point? Even though you left, I still found someone else? But honestly, what did it have to do with me? I didn't care who she chose to marry now. I tossed the invitation aside, completely unbothered, and went back to work. Not long after, Olivia came home in the afternoon. She spotted the card lying on the floor and picked it up. Whose wedding invite is this? An ex-girlfriend of mine, quick on the draw. Huh? She casually opened it, glanced at the names, and raised an eyebrow. Feeling slightly awkward, I took it back, ready to throw it in the trash. No need to pay them any mind. But to my surprise, she lifted her hand high, keeping it out of reach. A mischievous smile lit up her face, her voice bubbling with excitement. They invited us so sincerely. Let's go check it out. I want to see exactly what Emily was thinking, sending us an invite like this. The wedding was set for next month. Even more rushed than the original date Olivia and I had planned. Still, the final presentation wasn't as smooth as expected. I never thought I'd return here so soon. And again, with Olivia by my side. Many guests recognized me and knew our history. Today, seeing me walk into the venue arm in arm with another woman. Whispers quickly spread through the crowd. Never thought it'd happen so fast, just 3 or 4 months. We all assumed they'd definitely get married. And now look, each of them married someone else. Someone sitting nearby chuckled softly. So tell me, do you think they've actually tied the knot? The other person, momentarily speechless, paused, then burst into laughter. At first, when I heard Thomas married someone else, I thought he'd just changed his heart. But now, maybe he was just too heartbroken to stay. Another voice chimed in, sparking their interest. Hey, you know what? I heard the reason Emily's wedding is so rushed is because she's already 2 months pregnant with McGuire's baby. What, 2 months? Wait, if you calculate that, she'd just broken up with Thomas then. Come on, wasn't that right around when Thomas posted that swapping brides status? Must have been because of that. The conversation wasn't loud, but we were close enough for me to catch bits and pieces. Among them, that Emily was pregnant. I scoffed quietly. No wonder she dared send me an invitation. So that's why. Only 3 months ago. Thinking back, that was around the time they said they wanted to do IVF. They lied back then, saying Professor James had passed. Turns out, they didn't even go through with IVF. Olivia gently squeezed my hand. I turned, saw worry mixed with hurt in her eyes. I smiled and shook my head, signaling her not to worry. Then I waved her closer, motioning for her to lean down. She looked confused but obeyed. In that instant, her cheek brushed against something soft. Her eyes flew open. She turned sharply to look at me. I'd already turned away, pretending to be focused elsewhere. Except for my bright red ears. Impossible to hide. Truth was, my heart wasn't calm either. Not far away, Emily watched it all unfold. A storm of emotions churned inside her. Seeing our current state, she couldn't even comfort herself anymore with. It was just a fight. I chose someone else in anger. No. It seemed like I genuinely liked her. I accepted her presence, welcomed her close. Willingly. It was nothing like how things were with Emily. Back then, she always stayed still, waiting for me to come to her. Now, we both moved toward each other, leaving the past behind. I was truly stepping into a future without her. And she was drowning in a past that included me. McGuire followed Emily's gaze and looked over too. Just for a second, he saw Olivia and me leaning close, whispering. Around us, the air shimmered with invisible pink bubbles, warmth, intimacy, ease. Completely different from the strained politeness between him and Emily. So different. So utterly different. McGuire struggled to suppress the storm inside, hatred boiling beneath the surface. Forcing out a stiff, unnatural smile for Emily. You're about to go on stage. I'll go get ready. With that, he began pushing her wheelchair forward. Her eyes lingered on me, longing, unwilling to let go. Emily didn't know. Was this the last time she'd ever see me? She only knew that after today's wedding, there would be no more chances between us. She looked down at her empty legs and the brutal scar across her right arm. Grief surged through her heart like a tide, full of regrets and unspoken thoughts. She didn't even have the courage to ask McGuire to push her over to me. She was completely broken now. Even if there were no wedding, even if I hadn't married someone else, I probably wouldn't want someone like her anymore, a disabled woman. A shadow of who she once was. I felt her gaze and looked up, just in time to see McGuire wheeling her away. I froze. I hadn't realized she was in a wheelchair. Was it because of that car accident? Were her injuries really that severe? After the accident, I hadn't heard anything about her. Now, seeing her again, everything had changed so drastically, so painfully obvious. I couldn't tell if she had other injuries. But I understood, like this, she'd never be able to return to being a surgeon. A flicker of regret passed through me. In just 3 months, life had turned so completely. On stage, Emily's expression was dark. There was no joy of a bride on her wedding day. Instead, she looked like someone owed millions and refused to pay up. When McGuire first learned Emily was pregnant, he was shocked. His first instinct had been to suggest she terminate the pregnancy. Even though she'd already broken up with me. He could still see, I was still in her heart. But then, he saw an opportunity. He'd use this baby to bind her to him. Unknowingly, he was trapping himself in pain. And now, with her like this, Professor James's wife was also worried. She feared Emily might change her mind. What surprised her most was that Emily had actually agreed to marry McGuire. Even now, standing here at the ceremony, she forced herself to stay composed, to act natural. She placed McGuire's hand gently over Emily's, silently pleading, "Make my son happy." But Emily didn't respond, didn't move, didn't speak. Just as Professor James's wife's expression began to sour, McGuire stepped in to save face. He pushed Emily's wheelchair forward, positioning her in front of the priest. It wasn't part of the plan, but thankfully, the ceremony continued smoothly. Due to Emily's condition, many steps were simplified, but exchanging rings couldn't be skipped. The flower girl brought the rings forward. McGuire took them, ready to slide one onto Emily's finger. When suddenly, she stared blankly at the diamond ring. That wasn't the same ring she and I had chosen together for our wedding. Now, her wedding was finally happening. But the groom wasn't me. McGuire reached out, his smile growing rigid. Then, he heard her whisper a name. "Thomas, will you marry me?" His smile shattered instantly. But under everyone's watchful eyes, he couldn't collapse or walk away. So he forced another smile, one uglier than crying, and quietly reminded her, "It's time to exchange rings." Only then did Emily snap back to reality, slipping the ill-fitting ring onto her ring finger. I sat in the audience, watching her dazed state, and found myself understanding her less and less. Maybe it was true. People always long for what they can't have, while taking for granted those who love them too much. When I loved her, every response from her made me feel nothing like love. She treated my kindness as a given, yet gave her softest care to Maguire. Now, she'd gotten her wish, married Maguire. And I chose to walk away. Yet she acted like she missed our past. Who was she trying to fool? Thinking back, I remembered that class reunion. Expectation leads to disappointment. When you desire nothing, abundance returns. I'd once dreamed of building a future with Emily. But every time, I was the first one left behind. My marriage to Olivia started as a way to ease Grandpa's worries. I thought, as long as we treat each other with respect, like polite strangers, it'll be enough. No need for deep feelings. But Olivia gave me real love, complete, unconditional. My prayer had been answered. And Emily's everlasting love. Looking at her now, maybe that prophecy came true too. But I don't believe this is love. Between me and her, it was just a habit. A habit of me chasing her, begging for scraps of affection that never came. So when I finally left, then she says she loves me? Who would believe that? I didn't stay for the rest of the wedding. Midway, Olivia started feeling nauseous, so we left. I thought it was just the stuffy hall, some fresh air would help. But outside, she dry heaved violently. She kept saying she was fine, but I insisted on taking her to the hospital. From the we were sent to OB/GYN. The doctor asked again, "When was your last period?" The question startled both of us. Turns out, Olivia's period was already half a month late. "Has it ever been this delayed before?" the doctor asked. Olivia shook her head. It wasn't always perfectly regular, but never this late. For safety, she took a test. When the results confirmed she was 4 weeks pregnant, she still couldn't believe it. "Thomas, I'm really pregnant." She grabbed my face and kissed me hard on the lips, laughing until her eyes crinkled shut. "Honey, you're going to be a dad." The sudden kiss caught me off guard. My cheeks flushed bright red as I quickly pushed her away. We're still in a hospital." Thankfully, the lobby wasn't crowded. We didn't draw much attention. This time, neither of us wanted to stay in London any longer. We immediately booked flights back to Manchester. The moment Olivia got home, she ran upstairs to tell her parents the good news. I rushed home to share the joyful news with Grandpa. But as soon as I stepped through the door, the house was eerily silent. My cheerful voice echoed unanswered. My heart dropped. Frantic, I pushed open the bedroom door, only to find Grandpa collapsed on the floor. No matter how much I called his name, he didn't respond. Hands trembling, I grabbed my phone, first calling 120 for an ambulance. Then Olivia. Grandpa passed out. My voice cracked with tears. I only managed 4 words before Olivia came sprinting downstairs. We waited anxiously at the hospital while the emergency team worked on him. Outside the Olivia held me tightly as I sobbed uncontrollably, gently soothing me. "Grandpa will be okay. You have to stay strong, if not, he'll worry when he wakes up." I knew I shouldn't break down like this. But every time I pictured opening that door and seeing him lying motionless on the floor, my emotions overwhelmed me. I cried as I told her parents what happened. They felt a pang of guilt too. In the past, they'd often visited to help when Grandpa was alone. Who could have guessed that just one day without checking in would lead to this? Finally, the red light above the operating room turned green. The doctor stepped out. Used to families breaking down at the door, he remained calm and said, "Thankfully, you brought him in time. The emergency procedure went well. But his body is weak, he'll need to stay hospitalized for observation." Hearing that, I finally let out a breath. Olivia walked with me straight to his room. On the 3rd day, Grandpa woke up. He looked at me with deep regret, sighed softly, then gently wiped the tears from my face. "I'm old, Thomas, I don't have much time left. Just tripped, that's all. Caused such a fuss. I gripped his wrinkled hand, shaking my head fiercely. You're not old. You have to live a long time, to see your grandchild be born. To be there as they grow up. Hearing the word, grandchild, Grandpa's eyes lit up slightly. He smiled faintly. So I'm about to become a great-grandfather. Huh? Then I'll try my best to hang on a little longer, just like you said. I'll make sure I see my great-grandbaby come into this world, and grow up. When Olivia reached 7 months pregnant, friends from London brought shocking news. Emily had miscarried. The pregnancy was already far along, the baby couldn't be saved. Emily had never loved Maguire. She'd only married him because she'd made a wrong turn in life. Yet somehow, deep inside, a tiny hope had flickered. If she gave him a child, maybe she could still hold on to something. Now that the baby was gone, and she hadn't conceived with anyone else. Didn't that mean she could still beg Thomas for forgiveness? But first, she needed to divorce Maguire. The more desperate she became, the more things spiraled out of control. Maguire refused to let her go. And Emily couldn't file for divorce herself, especially now. With her mobility limited and Maguire treating her so kindly. So all she could do was wait. 6 long months. And during that endless wait, she heard the news. Olivia had given birth to a daughter for Thomas. That night, Emily could no longer bear it. She booked the next available flight and flew straight to Manchester. By the time she arrived at the hospital, it was already 8 p.m. When I saw her exhausted, haggard appearance, I almost didn't recognize her. Only when she whispered my name did I freeze. Realizing this broken woman was once Emily, the brilliant surgeon who once shone at London Hospital. I glanced behind her. No one had come with her. Curious, I asked, "You came alone?" She nodded. Since losing her legs, she rarely went out. This time, just to see me, she'd snuck away secretly. It was the first time since her accident that she'd traveled so far by herself. Along the way, she faced countless obstacles. Her wheelchair couldn't climb steps. Sidewalks blocked by bollards meant only pedestrians could pass, leaving her stranded on slopes, unfamiliar with maneuvering the chair. She'd inch forward 1, only to slide back 3. But all that exhaustion vanished the moment she saw me. Though anxious, her eyes sparkled with fragile hope. She looked at me and spoke the words she'd buried deep inside for so long. "Thomas, I didn't have a child with Maguire. Can you forgive me?" The second she finished speaking, her wheelchair suddenly jerked backward, pushed from behind. Olivia strode past with cold indifference and sat beside me. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Miss Emily, what right do you have to say that? Are you the ex-girlfriend who betrayed Thomas? Or Maguire's current wife? Or are you just a shameless opportunist, trying to win sympathy by playing the victim?" Emily was speechless, at a loss for words. But Olivia didn't let up. Instead, she kept digging, right in front of me. "Have you forgotten that Thomas is married to me? Coming here late at night to see another woman's husband, what exactly do you want? Are you trying to break into our family as a third party?" I never thought Dr. Emily, the most renowned doctor at London's top hospital, could be so low. Then again, someone who'd go through IVF before her wedding and have a child with another man. Maybe this isn't surprising at all. Emily's face flushed red, then pale, then red again. Finally, unable to take it anymore, she snapped back bitterly. "This is between Thomas and me. What does it have to do with you?" Olivia let out a quiet, mocking laugh, and was about to retort. But I stepped in first. "She's my wife. You're clinging to her husband. How can it not involve her?" That one sentence hit both women completely differently. Olivia instantly softened, obediently scooting closer to me. Inside, she was savoring the word, wife, I'd just used publicly. It wasn't easy getting me to say it like that, especially while defending her in front of an ex. Meanwhile, Emily turned deathly pale. My simple act of taking Olivia's side cut deeper than any of Olivia's insults. Disbelief flooded her eyes, her voice rising in desperation. You're defending her? You? But her words choked off, interrupted by the sudden cry of a baby. In that moment, Emily remembered why she'd come. She'd heard Olivia had given birth to my daughter. Now, she realized how utterly foolish her actions had been, how ridiculous her words sounded. I, who had been angry moments ago, instantly calmed at the sound of my daughter's cry. Gently picking her up, I soothed her until she drifted back to sleep, occasionally glancing at Emily, reminding her silently that she was the reason my child had woken. Once the baby was peacefully asleep again, I carefully laid her down and turned back to Emily, firm and final. This place isn't for you. Emily, please leave. Dazed, she wheeled herself out of the hospital. Outside, the dark sky hung a full moon. Suddenly, she remembered the first time we met. It was under a night just like this. Back then, I was cradling a dying kitten, desperate to find a vet open at that hour. Rushing around, head down, I accidentally bumped into her. After hearing my story, she came with me to the only pet clinic still open. But in the end, we couldn't save the little cat. I stayed sad for days. She quietly stayed by my side, handing me a tissue when I cried. From that day on, I started pursuing her, telling her I liked her. She didn't accept me at first, but I wouldn't give up. Eventually, we became a couple. But later, as Professor James's health declined, she poured more attention into Maguire, his son, out of gratitude. Not because she loved him, but because she felt indebted. She never meant to betray me. And she naively believed I'd always stay by her side. Until, step by step, we ended up here, apart. Love that isn't returned can't last forever. It was my fault, but I realized it too late. Emily pushed her wheelchair away, her silhouette down the hospital corridor thin, lonely, hollow. And right outside, Maguire waited. When he saw her emerge, he smiled warmly. Emily, I'm here to take you home. I've gone this far for you. I won't let go, not ever. Even if I die, I'll cling to you till the end. Back in the room, Olivia gazed lovingly at our sleeping daughter, her eyes brimming with contentment. I gently nudged her shoulder, waiting for her to look up before asking, "Have you picked a name yet?" "Not yet. The formal name I want Grandpa to choose. The nickname, I wanted to pick one myself. Any suggestions?" I nodded and asked, "So what were you thinking?" She hesitated, then admitted honestly, "I came up with a few, but your parents didn't like them." I could only laugh awkwardly. I understood why they'd said no. Some names would definitely give our daughter complex issues later. Then let's go with Ariana. Olivia decided on the spot. She wasn't great at naming, but at least this one sounded nice and clear-cut. The next day, the nickname Ariana was officially set. As for the full name, Grandpa John was overjoyed to be entrusted with the honor. He spent the whole night researching, finally settling on Ariana Hammond. I loved it. No one brought up last night again. After all, the past was behind us. We had to keep moving forward.